Hey guys, welcome to the video. I'm going to talk about EOS and I'm going to try to answer the question, is EOS a scam or is it really the Ethereum killer that people want to make it out to be? So I'm going to try to address that. We're going to look into this, we're going to compare it, and we're going to try and figure that out. So if you don't know about EOS, I'm going to fill you in on that. Now, there's been a lot of hype surrounding EOS just over the last couple of days. And maybe you want to know what the hype is about, what is EOS, what's the competitive advantage, and where is it going and so forth. So first of all, what is EOS? So EOS is a decentralized protocol that allows, it's like a platform that dApps or decentralized apps can run on. Now, as we have more and more blockchain projects, specifically applications, they need to run on a platform similar to how an app in the iOS store is built to run on iOS, on your iPhone. And so we have these decentralized protocols, these platforms, and they allow these dApps to run. Now, EOS is not the only one. There's others in the space. EOS is a new entrant to the space. Now, you've been hearing about them for about a year, but they're just about to launch. And so their main selling point is that they're faster. So we have a problem with scaling. People talk about Ethereum being too slow, Bitcoin being too slow. So EOS's main selling point is that they're faster. Like I said, they're not the only person in this space. They have competitors. I mean, Ethereum is the big one. Obviously, they control the majority of the market. We have new people coming on like Cardano. Neo's been around for a little bit. Qtum. There's several others. There's lots of people jumping in today trying to be faster, 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 which I don't think is enough. But in any case, those are the main competitors. That's what EOS is. Now, it's been out since about July of last year. It's actually been like the longest running ICO in history. It came on for about $1, popped real quick to about $4, settled back down to $1, and it basically stayed around $1 from July until about November of 2017. It got hyped up super big in January with the whole rest of the market, and then it subsequently crashed. It came down to the $4 or $5 range, and just recently you can see at the end, I mean, it really took off, and it got up to about $22, and it settled down a little bit from there. That's almost $17 at the time that we're talking right now. Now, EOS is a top 5 coin on CoinMarketCap with a almost $15 billion market cap or valuation. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just say that I think that is absolutely crazy because EOS does not even have a working product. EOS is working on the Ethereum protocol right now. They don't even have their own token. So when you're buying EOS, you're buying an ERC20 token, an Ethereum token for EOS. It's like a placeholder. So to have a top 5, they are the top 5 ranked cryptocurrencies out of all of them. And a lot of these projects are working and have actually business happening, and they have nothing. They don't even have a working product. So they're top 5, $15 billion valuation. I think that's very, very high, but that's where they're at. So they've kind of come on super fast. They've gone, like I said, from about $4 to about $20 just over the last couple of weeks. Now, what we'll do is let's look at the bull case. If you're not familiar, bull markets are good. Bull markets mean we're going up, as you can see by that little gold squiggly line. Bears are bad, bears are going down. And so let's look at the bull cases and the bear cases for EOS. So bull cases are things that we like. So right off the bat, we have Dan Larimer. Dan Larimer is the co-founder and the CTO of Block One. Block One is the company that's actually building the technology for EOS. So they've kind of separated that out to a separate company. Now that's a bull case for EOS because we like Dan Larimer. Dan Larimer has previously built 2 application-specific blockchains that I really like. BitShares and Steem. Now, BitShares is a decentralized exchange, and Steem is a decentralized social network. Both of those are really good platforms. I really like the projects. And so because Dan was part of that, that's a bull case for EOS. Both of those blockchains are considered industry leading. There's some of the best blockchains in the industry, and some of the ways that we review that is, 1, obviously we like the projects, but 2, those 2 blockchains actually process more blockchain transactions than any other sites out there. So that's really good. Larimer has been, because he's pioneered that, he's learned the ins and outs, he's learned what worked, what didn't work, and, he's learned and hopefully learned from his mistakes, and will use that to build a better product. The other bull case for EOS is that it's expected to be faster. Now, again, I say expected because we don't have a working product, but they say it should have about 1,000 transactions per second. That's TPS. And to put that into comparison, the Visa network does about 2,000. So 1,000 is really, really fast compared to Bitcoin at about 7 and Ethereum about 15. So 1,000 is really fast. They've obviously been throwing massive rocks at Ethereum saying they're too slow, we're going to be faster. But that's easy to say when Ethereum has a working product and is powering the majority of the blockchain space, and EOS is still an idea at this point. So the next set of bull case ideas we have for EOS is that they've raised over $2 billion. Some estimates as much as $4 billion have been raised through their ICO. Again, like I said, it's like the longest running ICO in history, is like over a year long. And if you've been following me, you know that I don't typically like to invest into ICOs. I think the risk to reward ratios are out of whack a little bit on that. There's very high risk in getting into ICOs, and sometimes the rewards don't line up. And part of that is because they don't have working products. So because they've been through this long ICO and they don't have a working product, it's been a little scary. However, I'm giving it a bull case because now they have a massive war chest of funds, somewhere between $2 to $4 billion. They're not going to run out of money anytime soon. They're so well funded, and now they can bully their way or buy their way into the space. And so what they've done is they've identified that they're going to spend money on marketing and development. So they're going to spend some of those $2 to $4 billion on marketing and just trying to get the word out. Every single blockchain project, they want to be in front of them. They want the word out. They want everyone to know about EOS, which they've done a really good job with that already. And then they want to spend $1 billion of that on development. So they created this ecosystem where they're going to fund projects. So if you want to develop a blockchain project, they have money to give you, like a grant almost, to help you fund you to develop on their EOS. So $1 billion to go into that. That's pretty massive. So those are definitely going to help it grow. In addition, with that money, Block One's going to be hiring a lot of key people, senior business executives. They're going to use that to forge partnerships. They're working with universities. They're doing studies. They're giving training. They want to build out globally, like developer relations, work with governments, regulations, all things like that. And so they're really going to use that money to strategically actively grow the business. Like I said, buy their way in. And so that's definitely a bull case for EOS. And then, like I said before, it's fast. That's their claim. They're going to come out with 1,000 TPS, which is amazingly fast. Ethereum is slow, and so that's good. Another really big piece, a bull case for EOS, is that it's free. And that's pretty important. So EOS transactions are going to be free for users. So what happens is, just like with the iPhone, and I have an apps, the apps have to pay the iPhone or iOS to run in there. And likewise, if I build a dApp on Ethereum, I have to pay Ethereum to run on that. And I pay with Ether tokens. So when you actually buy Ethereum, you're actually buying Ether tokens. Well, EOS is not going to charge. They're going to allow the dApps to run for free. Now, how can they do that? That's through inflation. So they're going to continue to increase the supply of tokens, and that's how they'll cover those costs. That's a whole nother separate topic. I typically don't like coins that are going to inflate the monetary base. I like deflationary coins. But anyway, the bull case is that it's free transactions for users. So Ethereum has gotten pretty expensive, and so it's expensive to run on the Ethereum network. And then if you can go run for free on EOS, that's a pretty good thing. It's also, they've designed it from the protocol level to be pretty easy to use. And so a couple things. One, users are always afraid of losing their password and being locked out. I mean, potentially losing all your money. And imagine if you had millions of dollars or more, tens of millions of dollars, and you lost your password, you got locked out. That's catastrophic. And so EOS built in on the protocol layer. It's not a third-party application. It's a protocol layer. They have an account recovery. So if you were to lose your password, there's a way to recover it. So that's pretty big, especially for like institutional type investors who are going to have lots and lots of money on there. They're also going to create like a readable address. So anybody who's transferred money from account to account knows how long and complicated that address is. If you've ever had to type it in, you have to really be careful with cap sensitive and numbers and so forth. Well, EOS is putting in a readable address. So I could actually customize it and change it to, at @StrongHandTotal, my Instagram, my my Twitter name. So you could customize it and make it easy to read, easy to relay, and that's going to make it much easier to send money back and forth. So those are some good things that I like about EOS. Now, those are all really good things. Those are all the pros. That's all the bull cases. Let's look at the bear cases. What are the stuff that we don't like? Now, as I said, I typically don't like ICOs because they're just ideas. There's a lot of risk involved. They may never get listed onto exchanges. Then you can't do anything with your tokens, etc. And EOS has been the longest ICO in history. They've raised somewhere between $2 to $4 billion, which I think is way too much. I don't like to see companies raise that much money typically. And they don't even have their working product out. So those are all bear cases. Longest ICO, too much money, don't have a working product, and as I started out with, their valuation today is extremely high. I mean, they're the fifth most valuable blockchain company in the entire space. I already talked about how BitShares and Steem are working products that actually have more traffic on those blockchains than the rest of the whole space. And there's all kinds of other working blockchain projects, but somehow EOS is the fifth most valuable without even a working product. So I think it's extremely high, and so that gives me a very lopsided risk to reward ratio. Now, also what I'd say a bear case is Dan Larimer. Now, you may say, wait a minute, didn't you say that was a bull case? I did. I like Dan Larimer. I like the two projects that he's been a part of. However, he abandoned both those projects prematurely. So he's saying that he learned from mistakes, those projects weren't built right, and he's going to learn from those mistakes and fix that on EOS. However, why didn't he stick with those projects and fix them there? Why did he leave those projects when they weren't right, when they weren't finished, etc.? And so although, yes, it's a bull case to have Dan Larimer, it could also be a bear case because he could launch this thing with a bunch of bugs, get over it, and leave the project stranded. So although I do like him, there's risk involved there. And then probably for me, my biggest bear case on this is the ideology behind EOS, and I'm going to get into it a little bit deeper, but basically, I fell in love with Bitcoin because of the decentralized, the censorship-resistant, revolutionary technology that Bitcoin proposed. And so most blockchain projects have followed that. Unfortunately, it caused it to be a little bit slow. EOS wants to be the fastest, and so they've given up a lot of the decentralization. They're probably one of the more centralized platforms out there, and they're not strong censorship resistant. I'm going to get more into that. But you just can't have your cake and eat it too, and so they've sacrificed censorship resistance for speed. And so that's definitely a bear case for me. A few more things, especially when it comes to beating out Ethereum, is that Ethereum has this massive first mover advantage. They're the incumbent in the space. About 76% of all blockchain projects are built on Ethereum. They have this ERC20 standard. And so all these projects are now following this ERC20 standard. Like I said, the majority of coins out there are built on this standard, which means they're all interchangeable, interoperable. All the decentralized exchanges that we see popping up, they're all working with ERC20 coins. And that's a massive, massive first mover advantage. And those are the reasons why you see companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook becoming so dominant. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't competitors to Facebook and aren't competitors to Google, but those people have entrenched their positions because of that first mover advantage. And Ethereum definitely has that. Like I said, even with that ERC20 standard, we have 20 to 30 million Ethereum users. Over 2,000 different tokens are built on the ERC20 standard. The ICO teams have been raising billions of dollars and building on that platform. So the network effect is real. The network effect is how many people are using the platform, and with 20 to 30 million users, the network effect is real. So that's a strong bear case against EOS, especially when it comes to trying to take out Ethereum. Also, bear case for EOS is back to it being too centralized. So they have one company building it. They only have 21 block producers as opposed to Ethereum having over 10,000 validators. And the consensus mechanism, they have their own DPoS. So you usually have either POW or POS, proof of work or proof of stake. They have this DPoS, and that's what causes this centralization. Also, all their coins were pre-mined and they're distributing those coins. And I believe the way that they distributed the coins have been too centralized, as opposed to traditional mining of coins like we see with Bitcoin and Ethereum, where the coins are mined and they're distributed over a course of time. But these were pre-mined and they were distributed, and so that also caused more centralization. Additional bear case for EOS, especially in regards to is it the Ethereum killer, is that we have Neo, Qtum, and Cardano, and those are already out there trying to kill Ethereum, trying to beat Ethereum, but none of those have really been able to take much market share from Ethereum. Neo, the price has done good, but we really haven't seen this ecosystem. We haven't really started to see these dApps start launching. There's a few, but it's really the community hasn't embraced any of those like they've embraced Ethereum, and so that it kind of shows a little track record that Ethereum is very hard and hard to beat, and so EOS might have a tough time with that. You know, Ethereum has this foundation, and their top priority is scalability. I believe, you know, with Vitalik Buterin, they have some of the best developers in the world, maybe the biggest developer base and the best developers working on that, single focused on scalability. They have sharding and plasma as their two options. Vitalik Buterin's been talking quite a bit about sharding and how, the progress it's been having. So if EOS, if their main competitive advantage is speed, and they want to go after Ethereum, and Ethereum can solve the speed problem, well, then EOS really loses its only sellable, its own selling point, and then you have the whole centralized aspect of it. So anyway, those are bear cases for EOS, and the big one is sovereign grade censorship resistant. Block 1 does not claim to be sovereign grade censorship resistant. They say it's platform grade censorship resistant. Now, those are new words that have really just been thrown around recently, and I really think that whole debate has come because of EOS. And they say, well, not everybody needs to have sovereign grade censorship resistant. Sovereign grade meaning like where governments couldn't take it over. Not everything needs that. Some could just be platform grade. Like governments maybe could take it over, but on the platform it's okay. But I believe you either are censorship resistant or you're not. You either are or you're not. I don't believe there's kind of this halfway. And so what is censorship resistant? So censorship resistant is what's made Bitcoin revolutionary. Bitcoin is not PayPal 2.0. Bitcoin is not just a better way to move money. It's not a faster way to move money. What it is it's censorship resistant. What that means is that nobody can get in between me and you on a transaction. I can send money to whoever I want. I can receive money from whoever I want. I can hold my money. Nobody has the ability to come and steal my money, levy my money, freeze my accounts. Nothing. None of that can happen. It's censorship resistant. And that's really the value of Bitcoin. That's the true value. And so people who say there's no intrinsic value, well, that's the value. It's censorship resistant, so it's revolutionary. And so what I'm seeing is the debate has turned to being centralized or decentralized. But I think they're missing the point, because you could say, well, yeah, EOS is decentralized, but it's really not, it's not decentralized enough to make it censorship resistant. So that's the argument. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to trade off censorship resistant for speed. So EOS had to give up sovereign grade censorship resistance to be faster. But now they claim to be platform grade censorship resistant. But again, you either are or you aren't. So what I feel is that now they're really in the middle. So you have centralized models like Facebook who are extremely fast, but they're totally centralized. They're not censorship resistant at all. Then you have platforms like Bitcoin who are completely censorship resistant, but they're slow. EOS tries to be in the middle. The problem is they're neither fast nor censorship resistant. So I feel like they should just move to one way or the other. I believe that the platform which all the applications will be built on needs to be the hard censorship resistant. The dApps can choose whether they want to be soft, but it can't be the other way around. If the dApp is hard, the platform has to be hard. So that's where it starts. Now, I believe that ETH, Ethereum, has massive value in their community, and it's because of the way it was launched, more in a viral kind of community approach. So we have like true believers that came into ETH, into Ethereum, and they used the community. They built around this ecosystem, and they had this vision for what it was. And it's kind of like how Bitcoin was created. Bitcoin wasn't done through an ICO. They didn't raise $4 billion, right? People joined it because they loved it. And so let's look at these head to head. Is EOS the Ethereum killer? And that's mainly what I was going to try and answer at this on this video. So the main differences I see with ETH and EOS is that ETH attracted developers in the early days because of the vision that they had. So it was all hobbyists and tinkers that came on board to Ethereum, and they managed to raise $22 million, which is not a small amount. It does sound small when you compare it to the 2 to 4 billion that EOS raised, but Ethereum attracted that just from people that love the project, and that's the important part, is who it came from and why. ETH was built, like I said, mainly because of mission and vision, and it was a community that came together to build this decentralized world computer. We compare that to EOS, which was born from money. It was born from money. They don't have a working product. They don't have people working on this. They raised a few $billion, and now they're trying to buy their way in. They're buying their way in, and so they want to use that money to buy it in. And so I believe it's like this money first type of mission. And I just don't think that money is the best motivator for a project. At the end of the day, you have to believe in, you have to have passion for what you work with. If it's only money driven, that changes. And then more money shows up and I'm gone. So EOS is definitely a different approach. Time will tell which one works better at all. Now, ETH's core group is attached to the project by sense of duty. That's what I said. So it's about the mission. That's why they came to this. Now, they were rewarded. The early investors have received well over a 2,000 times return, and actually even more than that, depending on where they got in on the crowd sale. And so they were rewarded, but they didn't come because of that. And, they came because of the technology, because of the decentralized nature. And it's built this very dynamic, very diverse ecosystem. And they have this ERC20 token thing now that everybody's building to. And so, because the ETH developers were built or came to a sense of mission and vision, I don't see them jumping ship just with dangling a little bit of money. But EOS, again, like I said, they had this top-down approach where basically it was all driven by investors, by whales, basically. And I just think, they do have this program where they're going to basically pay developers to come build on their platform. But, what happens is if I pay you to come, the next time somebody offers you more money, you're just jumping ship to go over there. The other problem is that, with EOS being so high, again, these developers don't have all the upside they had when they got into Ethereum in the early days. So those are definitely going to be problems. Also, back to EOS using this development fund, it's more akin to like what Ripple's done, because Ripple also pre-mined all their currency and now they have all this fake money, they're throwing it around, and that's kind of what EOS is doing. So they're trying to buy their way in, and the problems that I see with that, especially buying developers, is that by having this much money, basically free money, it leads to what we call malinvestment. When I have to earn my money, I'm very careful with what I do with that. When I have free money, I don't treat it the same way. And so now they have $1 billion, they're going to start throwing it around, and I think a lot of it can lead to malinvestment. And that means that a lot of the places they put their money really won't come to fruition and won't really have the return that they should have. I also see that like these dApp developers, they're going to try to buy these dApp developers to come over. I think they're all going to be trying to max out their cash comps, right? They're all going to be trying to structure their deals to get the most amount of money. So everything about EOS is structured towards money. Even the developers are going to be structuring their offering to get the most amount of money out of this. And so it's just not a good way to do that. So we'll see. Once rival stacks come on, so the next EOS comes on and tries to buy these guys over, are they going to jump ship? So that's definitely a problem. And then, the EOS team versus the ETH team. The ETH team, again, headed up by Vitalik Buterin. They have the whole community, probably, like I said, one of the largest and most diverse and technical group of developers in the world. And EOS doesn't really have a track record. We have Dan Larimer. Yes, his track record is good, but it's also bad. Now they want to go spend money on buying talent. But again, it's all about buying. Mercenary engineers, we call it. So we'll see. We'll see if they have the best team. Ultimately, who's going to win? So are we bearish on EOS or are we bullish on EOS? And I'm sure you're all looking to me for that answer. And what I'll say is that I don't believe it's a winner take all. All right. I think there can be more than one winner. I think that with the new type of technology we're seeing right now, interoperability chains, we're going to start to see these blockchains working together much easier. They're going to be transferring value back and forth between blockchains. And I believe that's going to create a system where multiple platforms and protocols can work together. So we're not going to have a one winner. Even Facebook, as dominant as they are, still has other social media platforms out there, right? Even as dominant as Google is, there's still other search platforms out there, etc. So what we'll see is, I believe we'll see multiple platforms out there. Interoperability chains will allow this to work much better. I believe that dApp developers, the application developers, will decide and choose which platform to build on depending on what features they need. If they really want to have censorship resistance, they're going to want to go with a platform that provides that, like Ethereum. If they don't care about that, and they're in it just for the money, and they just want speed, then they could go with EOS. And so each one can choose what they want to do. The beauty of being in the cryptocurrency space is that we get something called asymmetric bets or asymmetric returns. Asymmetric meaning lopsided, one bigger one way than the other. And so with crypto, we have unlimited upside, or a really, really big upside with a very minimal downside. And so because of that, we can take exposure to all the top platforms or multiple top platforms. So maybe you put a little bit on Ethereum and EOS at the same time. Maybe you put some on Neo, Qtum, EOS, and Ethereum. Even if you put money on 4 of them and 3 of them went to 0, you would still make a lot of money. So you don't have to choose. My prediction is not a winner take all. So I don't think it's going to kill Ethereum at all. I believe that Ethereum has too big of a head start. They control too much of the market, and there's no way they're going to kill EOS. I believe that Ethereum will solve their scaling problems and take away EOS's main competitive advantage. However, if you want to get into EOS, how high can it go? How much money could you expect to make off of this? Now, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't really know. But what we do is I look at the value of the company, which is the market cap. Forget the price of a coin, but look at the market cap, because that's the value of the company. Now, currently it's a top 5 coin, which seems absurd seeing as they don't even have a working product. However, they are trying to go after Ethereum. So let's say that they could, hypothetically, and I don't think this is the case, but if they could knock Ethereum off and take Ethereum's number 2 spot. So currently EOS is at 15 billion. If they were able to grow to 65 billion like Ethereum is, then that would push the price of the EOS coin up to $72. Somewhere from about $20 to $72. So that's about a 2.5 return on your money, which is amazing. If you can get a 2.5 percent return, a 2.5 times return in the stock market, well, I don't even know. It's unheard of. You would never make that type of return. So it's amazing. It's an amazing return. However, I typically like to get into things that I see a 10x potential. And so a 2.5x potential doesn't have the high upside, but it also has a lot of downside. So then there's a high risk to reward ratio that you need to figure out where it fits into your portfolio, if that makes sense for you. Now, of course, that's only getting to Ethereum's market cap today. I believe Ethereum market cap will get into the trillions of dollars eventually, and EOS might be able to do that as well. So that's my case on Ethereum versus EOS. Is EOS going to be the Ethereum killer? My vote is no. I think Ethereum is way too big. I think they're going to fix the scaling problem, and EOS will not catch or kill Ethereum. However, I think EOS could still coexist. I think we might see multiple protocols coexist with Ethereum. And because of the asymmetric return reward ratios, I think you can put money on both and still come out okay. I hope that helps. That's all I got for you right now. Hit the subscribe button down below. I'm going to keep giving you more content like this. If you'd like to see me dig in deep on some other coins and compare them, put them in the comments below. Let me know which coins you want me to do that on. I'll do that. Make sure you give me lots of thumbs up. I need lots of thumbs up. Hit the subscribe, and I'll be back with more. That's all I got today.